All right, settle down. You know, when we think of old Hollywood, we picture these black and white gods and goddesses, right? Perfect hair, perfect teeth, always hitting their mark. They seem so classy. But behind the scenes, it wasn't all champagne and red carpets. These are the people who put the hell in Hollywood. Let's see who made the list and why. First up, we have a woman who was the absolute definition of a Hollywood diva, Joan Crawford. On screen, she was magnificent. Those eyes, they could either melt your heart or freeze it solid. She would time her lines, time her co-stars' lines, and offer, let's call them unsolicited suggestions to everyone from the director of photography to the poor intern fetching coffee. Her rivalry with Bette Davis is the stuff of Hollywood legend, so much so they made a whole TV show about it. The set was a war zone, the stories are legendary. Mommy dearest, no more wire hangers ever, a truly chilling legacy. Next on our list is a guy who, on the surface, seemed like he had it all. Errol Flynn. The name itself sounds like an adventure. He was the Tasmanian devil in a tuxedo, a swashbuckling superstar who burst into the golden age of Hollywood with a blindingly handsome smile and an athletic grace that made him the undisputed king of the action-adventure genre. Audiences in the 30s and 40s couldn't get enough. He was the ultimate escapist fantasy, a hero who was dashing, daring, and just a little bit dangerous. When you saw him on screen as Robin Hood in glorious Technicolor, or as the dashing pirate Captain Blood, you weren't just watching an actor, you were watching the living embodiment of heroism. He swung from ropes, brandished a sword with genuine skill, and always had a twinkle in his eye. His on-screen chemistry with co-star Olivia de Havilland was legendary, creating a romantic ideal that audiences swooned over. He was the noble rogue, the charming outlaw who fought for the little guy, and the public absolutely believed it, because on screen, he was perfect. But off-screen the story was drastically different. The line between the charming rogue he played and a real-life predator was dangerously blurred. His behavior was so wild, so relentlessly hedonistic, it makes today's celebrity scandals look like a church bake sale. His yacht, the Zaka, was infamous in Hollywood circles, a floating den of debauchery where the booze flowed freely and the parties never stopped. Flynn cultivated an image as Hollywood's resident bad boy, a man who lived by his own rules, and the studio, Warner Brothers, often found itself in the unenviable position of cleaning up his messes, from drunken brawls to scandalous affairs, all to protect their golden goose. He lived by a motto he was all too happy to share. I like my whiskey old and my women young. Yikes. In today's world, that's a career-ending confession. Back then it was part of his brand, but that brand was about to be tested in the most public way imaginable. In 1942, at the absolute peak of his fame, the whispers that had followed him for years erupted into a roar. Errol Flynn was put on trial, accused of statutory rape by two underage girls, Betty Hansen and Peggy Satterley. The alleged incidents had taken place on his infamous yacht. The hero of the silver screen was now facing the possibility of prison, and his carefully constructed image was about to shatter. The trial was a full-blown media circus, the O.J. trial of its day. Crowds mobbed the courthouse, a mix of horrified onlookers and devoted fans who refused to believe their hero was guilty. The press had a field day, splashing every salacious detail across the front pages. Flynn's defense team went on the attack, ruthlessly painting his young accusers as fame-hungry liars. In a move that seems unthinkable now, the prosecution's case was heard by an all-male jury. The entire spectacle gave rise to a new American phrase, in like Flynn, a testament to the belief that with his charm and fame, he could get away with anything. And get away with it, he did. Flynn was acquitted on all charges. But the victory was hollow. The trial left a permanent stain on his reputation and seemed to accelerate his self-destruction. His drinking and drug use spiraled out of control. The dashing hero began to disappear, replaced by a bloated, haggard man who looked far older than his years. He died in 1959 at the age of just 50, a burnt-out shell of the vibrant star he once was. In a final, grimly poetic twist, he died in the company of his 17-year-old girlfriend. The charming predator had finally been consumed by the very lifestyle he so famously embraced. Alright, let's talk about a force of nature, an absolute hurricane in pearls. She was tough, she was blunt, and she did not suffer fools, gladly or otherwise. She battled with studio heads, particularly Jack Warner at Warner Brothers, constantly. She wasn't there to make friends, she was there to make great movies. For a scene where Bette's character had to drag Jones, Jones supposedly put weights in her pockets to make it harder for Bette, who ended up injuring her back. It was psychological warfare disguised as filmmaking, 2 Oscars and a body of work that is still revered today. She proved that sometimes you have to be a little bit hated to be truly great. Our final entry might be the most surprising on this list, because on the surface, he was America's dad. In Hollywood's golden age, Bing Crosby was the quintessential paternal figure. With his calming baritone voice, a pipe in hand and a cozy cardigan, he projected gentle authority. He was the friendly priest in Going My Way, the charming crooner, a figure of unwavering stability. He wasn't just a singer, he was a national institution, a comforting presence in every American living room. And nothing cemented that image more than his music. His rendition of White Christmas became an anthem for soldiers during World War II. To this day, it remains the best-selling single of all time. For decades, Bing Crosby's voice was the soundtrack to American life, synonymous with holiday cheer and wholesome family values. But behind the closed doors of his Beverly Hills mansion, a very different story was unfolding. A story of fear and control hidden beneath a veneer of Hollywood perfection. The pressure to maintain that flawless public image was immense, and at home that pressure allegedly curdled into a private tyranny that remained secret for decades. The truth, or at least one version of it, erupted in 1983, 6 years after Crosby's death. His eldest son Gary released a tell-all memoir titled Going My Own Way, and the fallout was explosive. In an era before constant celebrity scandals, this was a bombshell that shattered one of America's most cherished myths. Gary alleged that his father was a cold, distant, and incredibly harsh disciplinarian. He painted a portrait of a father obsessed with control. Gary described being forced into humiliating public weigh-ins, with his father mocking him if he'd gained a single pound. The punishments for minor infractions were allegedly brutal, claiming his father would use a leather belt for beatings that left him and his brothers terrified. Affection was withheld, and love was earned through impossible obedience. The alleged abuse cast a long, dark shadow. Tragically, 2 of Bing's 4 sons from that first marriage, Lindsay and Dennis, later died by suicide. Both had battled alcoholism and severe depression for most of their lives. Their surviving brothers publicly stated they believed their father's cruel parenting contributed directly to their brother's inability to find peace. The revelations created a jarring public whiplash. You could be listening to Swinging on a Star on the radio while reading headlines about a man who allegedly beat his children for not practicing the piano. The scandal ignited a fierce debate. Bing's second wife, Catherine, defended his memory, painting Gary as a liar. This public battle left fans divided. The revelation that the comforting, paternal image might have been a lie felt like a profound betrayal to many, forcing them to confront the dark possibility that their beloved American dad was a monster at home. So there you have it. 4 titans of the silver screen: Joan Crawford, Errol Flynn, Bette Davis, and Bing Crosby. We've peeled back the layers on Crawford's alleged monstrous parenting, a chilling counterpoint to her on-screen maternal roles. We've navigated the turbulent waters of Errol Flynn's hedonistic lifestyle, a life that blurred the lines between swashbuckling hero and real-life villain. We've witnessed the fierce, often brutal ambition of Bette Davis, whose legendary feuds were as dramatic as any of her award-winning performances. And we've uncovered the stark contrast between Bing Crosby's public persona as America's favorite crooning father figure and the private accounts of his cold and allegedly abusive family life. Their stories are a potent reminder that the Hollywood image is often just that, an image. It was a meticulously crafted illusion, polished and perfected by the powerful studio system. In the Golden Age, stars were assets, their lives governed by morality clauses and their public appearances stage-managed down to the last detail. The studio PR machines worked tirelessly, feeding a narrative of perfection to a hungry public, while gossip columnists held the real, often sordid secrets like trump cards, ready to build up a star or tear them down. The glamour we saw on screen was a product, a fantasy sold to millions, while the reality was often a landscape of immense pressure, personal demons, and profound hypocrisy. This brings us to the great, uncomfortable question that lingers long after the credits roll. Do these revelations change how you see their work? Can you still watch Mildred Pierce and see only a mother's sacrifice, knowing the stories told by Christina Crawford? Does Bing Crosby's White Christmas still feel as warm and comforting? Can you truly separate the art from the artist, or does the darkness of the creator inevitably cast a shadow over their creation? It's a debate with no easy answers, a personal calculation every viewer must make. For some, the magic is shattered forever. For others, the performance stands alone, a testament to a talent that existed independently of the person's flaws. But one thing is for sure. Their real lives contained more drama, more heartbreak, and more shocking twists than any script they ever read. The pressures of maintaining that flawless facade, coupled with the intoxicating highs and devastating lows of fame, created a reality far more complex than any 2-hour film could ever capture. Their stories aren't just gossip, they are cautionary tales about the human cost of building a legend. Of the figures we've explored, who do you think was the most controversial? Was it the alleged cruelty of Crawford, the debauchery of Flynn, the coldness of Crosby, or the ruthless ambition of Davis? And of course, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Hollywood's history is littered with complicated legacies. What about the scandals that plagued Charlie Chaplin, or the notoriously difficult behavior of Marlon Brando in his later years? Did we miss anyone you think belongs on Hollywood's most controversial list? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear which stories resonate or repel you the most. If you've enjoyed this journey into the darker side of the Golden Age, and if you believe these stories are an essential part of understanding Hollywood's true history, then show your support by hitting that like button. It really helps us bring more of these forgotten or hidden narratives to light. And to make sure you don't miss our next deep dive, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. We have so many more stories to tell. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.